We all get the itch to upgrade our wardrobe at times, but without a clear plan or a clear direction moving forward, it can turn into a very slippery slope of over-consuming, overspending, and buying things that go unused. So today I'll be sharing with you a handful of tips if you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe, but you want to make sure that you're doing it mindfully. If you want to see more content on things like mindful consumption and intentional shopping, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. I put out videos every Tuesday and Friday, so you will always have something to learn. And without further ado, let's get right into it. My first tip for you is to identify the gaps within your wardrobe. I recently did an entire video on identifying gaps, so if you want to see a more in-depth process of what this actually looks like, I will link it above here and you can check it out. But the entire point of identifying gaps within your wardrobe is to make sure that you're adding items with intention that are actually going to serve a purpose within your closet. Because when it comes to upgrading your wardrobe, it doesn't mean that you should go out and shop willy-nilly, and you shouldn't apply critical thinking skills to the shopping process, because this is often going to lead to impulse purchases and regretful purchases and a lot of guilt if you buy something and you don't use it. Identifying gaps comes down to really understanding what's already in your wardrobe and then pinpointing common areas of your life where you feel like you're kind of struggling to get dressed. Now, I do want to pause for a second on this, because while I don't encourage you to go shop sporadically and willy-nilly, like I said, I do think that sometimes we have this itch to be like, I just want to go out and see what I can find. And I will be honest with you, I do that too when it comes to thrifting, like especially because you go to the thrift store and you're like, I don't really know what I'm gonna find. So I don't think it's always necessary to have a gap in mind when you are going shopping. I think it's very helpful, and I think it helps avoid any regretful purchases. But I would really only encourage you to go somewhere without a concrete plan if it's to the thrift store. And in order to be intentional, you'll want to make sure that you're kind of conducting this process backwards. So you need to ask yourself things like, does this have a true place in my closet? Do I already have something similar to this? Does this fill a gap that I maybe didn't realize existed? And honestly, if I ask myself all these questions and I know that it's going to serve a purpose in my wardrobe, then of course I will buy it. So I do want you to know that while I will always encourage you to be as intentional and as mindful as possible when it comes to any type of wardrobe refresh, there are different approaches to figuring out which items are truly gonna benefit your own wardrobe and then which aren't. So you can either identify the gap within your own closet, or you can go to the store and see if an item you like fills that gap. My next tip for you is to set a budget and stick with it. Now, this is a big one, especially for anybody who struggles with overspending, or maybe you find yourself frequently being like, oops, I think I might have went a little bit overboard. It's really easy to tell yourself like, oh, an extra $20 won't hurt, or an extra $50 won't hurt. But those little splurges can add up very, very quickly. And so this is where willpower comes into play. So with that, I highly recommend shopping in person if it's available to you, and here's why. So this is what I like to do. If I am going shopping, which I'm typically shopping in person at the thrift store or a flea market or something like that, I will bring a set amount of cash with me, and then I will leave any cards at home. So the past few times I've been to the thrift store, maybe like twice over the past like 4 or 5 months or so, it really hasn't been super often, I've been like, I just want to find something under $20. So I will bring $20 in cash, and that's my limit. And I don't really have the choice to go over because I don't have any more cash and I don't have my cards with me. I also don't have Apple Pay set up or anything like that. So I know that there's like different nuances to this and everything, and different loopholes that people could get through, but again, this is all about willpower. And one last thing I want to point out for this tip is that just because you set a specific budget doesn't mean you have to spend the entire budget, okay? I think that if you filled the gap that you need, it's perfectly okay to practice some self-control, honestly, and say, all right, I got what I need and there's no need to continue. So all this talk of thrifting actually brings me to my next point, which is to shop secondhand. So I find that a lot of us get bored with our wardrobe and we kind of crave an upgrade or a refresh to our wardrobe because we don't have enough personality pieces, as I like to call them. I have a very neutral wardrobe. It's just how I roll. It's just what I like. But I do find that those moments of boredom are when I'm like, oh, I just wish I had something with a little bit more life, a little bit more expression. And so I find that having a few more standout pieces in my wardrobe can help breathe a little bit more life into my closet. I think that the treasure hunting aspect of shopping secondhand is what makes it so fun. And that's why I think it's also a really great way to add something new to your wardrobe, but in a more mindful, sustainable way. So you can head to some secondhand shopping destination and find some cool pieces that you might want to try out. And also, everybody has different levels of expression. Like, my level of expression is probably different from yours and everyone else's. I definitely like subtle pieces. I like little pops of color. So I'm not saying you have to go to the thrift store and find some like super extravagant, like crazy loud item at all. I'm just saying that shopping secondhand can help you find really unique items that will help add some visual interest to your wardrobe, and it will allow you to see just a little bit more of a personality, a little bit more life within your selection. Now, you don't obviously always have to go shop secondhand for personality pieces. I have found so many of my basics at the thrift store too. So I would say this tip doesn't necessarily only apply to wanting to find more expressive pieces, but it could apply to anything that you're looking for, especially because when you shop secondhand, you're helping extend the life of an item that wouldn't be extended otherwise, especially if it ends up in a landfill. So definitely take the time to shop secondhand if it's available to you. You will not only find pieces that can serve the foundation of your wardrobe, but you can also find pieces that will breathe a little bit more life and give a little bit more expression to your wardrobe as well. My next tip for upgrading your wardrobe mindfully is to swap with some friends or people in your community. I love swapping because I think it's such a great way to truly embody the definition of circular fashion. If you live either in or near a major city, I guarantee you can find a local clothing swap. You can also consider joining a local Facebook group to see if there's anybody in your community who's interested in swapping, or you can even just gather a bunch of friends at your home and see if you can do a little swapping get together. And another great option is to use the platform Be Reworn, which will help you throughout the entire process of setting up a clothing swap. So definitely keep this in mind the next time you feel like you need a little wardrobe upgrade. My next tip for you is to rent your clothes. Renting is one of my favorite things in this world, hands down. So it's great because you don't have to commit. I think it's such a great way to add some variety to your closet, especially if you have a more neutral leaning wardrobe like myself. I feel like although I love my very basic neutral type of wardrobe, there's definitely times where I'm like, oh, I just wish I had something that made me look like the sun. I wish I had something that made me look more like cheery and bright. So I've rented from both Nuuly and Rent the Runway. I kind of only do Rent the Runway for events or occasions like weddings and stuff like that. Nuuly is definitely more my style when it comes to everyday wear. So if I had to recommend one of them, I probably would recommend Nuuly if it fits your style. Now, I do want to be honest with you guys and say that renting is definitely one of the more pricier things on this list. So if you are somebody who's on a tight budget, then I probably wouldn't recommend this. It's just something that I like to personally lean on when I'm like, all right, I'm getting a little bit desperate. I feel like I really need to try something that I'm not ready to commit to. Like, let me go and rent a few pieces. My next tip is to modify your existing clothes. So I think that one of the best ways to upgrade your wardrobe without consuming is to take what you already have and change it somehow. Things like adding some embroidery to an otherwise plain shirt, or maybe swapping out some buttons with something a little bit more cool or refreshing to you. So to give you an example of this from my own wardrobe, I have an extra white t-shirt that I've kind of been dabbling with the idea of doing something with because I just want to make it more fun. So what I decided is that I'm going to embroider all of the track lists from my favorite album on the shirt. Here's the shirt, untouched so far. I'm currently trying to design the embroidery of how exactly I want it, but I'm really excited because I think I'm definitely gonna get more use out of this item if it has just a little bit something extra to it rather than being just a plain white t-shirt, which I already have in my closet. I do have experience with embroidery, but it's definitely going to be a little bit of a hefty task. So stay tuned. Maybe I'll report back. Maybe I won't. Maybe you guys will just see me wearing it one day. Also, the album is Deeper Well by Casey Musgraves. If anybody's a fan, leave a comment down below. I love Casey Musgraves so much, I can't even tell you. I've seen her so many times in concert, and this is a video about upgrading your wardrobe, so let's continue. And my last tip is to make your own clothes. Now, I know this is a huge task and it's not something that everybody's gonna want to do. I totally get it, especially because it does take quite a bit of time, and I feel like time is something not many of us have these days. And there's also quite a big learning curve. But I wanted to mention it because I've just been thinking about it a ton lately. I've just had this itch to make something. I don't know what, but I want to make something. So I think I'm scratching that itch with the embroidery t-shirt that I'm going to be doing, but I still want to just make something. So if you've been curious about trying to make your own clothes, or maybe you have in the past and you want to get back into it, if you're looking for a sign to start, this is it. YouTube, of course, is a great resource for any beginner knowledge that you might need. I recently started following the YouTuber by the name of From Carly B. She has some fantastic sewing advice, and she's made me excited to want to start sewing again. I never really sewed in the first place. I made like a couple of things here and there throughout the years, but it's always something that I just never stick with long enough where I can just jump back into it and be like, yeah, I got it. I know what I'm doing. Like, I always have to refresh my brain a little bit. But again, if you have the time, if you're kind of itching for something to learn, something to immerse yourself in, why not make some clothes? It doesn't have to be anything complicated. There are so many beginner patterns and instructional videos out there on YouTube. So definitely give it a try. I will definitely report back if I end up making something. Maybe I'll even film it. Who knows? We'll see. All right, you guys, that is the end of the video. If you have any tips of your own on how you like to upgrade your wardrobe in a mindful way, leave it down in the comments below. I would love to chat with you about it. As always, thank you so much for watching. I am so appreciative of your support, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.